I couldn't believe what we were doing. Obviously, I was extremely nervous. How could I stop this? Should I stop this? I know it's not right. I'm too invested in this, so allow me to just paint the scene. We had gone on a few more dates, and I was becoming progressively more upset with how much I loved this girl, and even more upset at how much she loved me. While it wasn't love at first sight, the feelings became more undeniable by the day. She began to share so much of herself under the promise of secrecy. Of course, I'll uphold that secrecy now and not tell you the things that she wanted only myself to know. What I can tell you is that she had a light of sorts, a beautiful, beautiful warmth that I wanted to boast up. I wanted her positive outlook that she tried to hide. I wanted to show it to the world. And I take full responsibility for that not happening. While she was at home, we'd converse over text. She'd send messages stating every little thing that she was doing. Washing laundry, watching Doctor Who or some kitschy show like that, replaying Prince of Persia, and describing the game. I had never played any of those games. And while she did this, I watched from a distance, outside in a tree, or hidden out of view near the laundry room basement window. No matter how cold it got, the little candle was enough to keep me near. Honestly, I think she knew I was there. When she suggested a certain date, what I knew would end up being our last date, I knew what was coming, what she was thinking. She subtly brought it up in private conversations. We walked through the graveyard in the middle of the day, but the sharp shift to darkness caused by daylight savings was compounded by the overcast sky, making it unnaturally gloomy. Visibility was low, worryingly low. The blurry sound I'd grown accustomed to made the only conversation possible done via affectionate hand squeezes through heavy waterproof gloves. The graveyard was in a hilly part of town, and down behind the field of gravestones was a woodsy area that declined down into a little creek. As we walked down the hill into the surreal thicket of trees, I caught her looking at me with a specific look, a look that indicated one of two completely different emotions and thoughts. It was a concerned look that meant that she was either sad but didn't have the words to express such a feeling, or she wanted to make out. The rapid hand squeezes and slowed walking pace would have been enough for me to divine what she had been feeling, or just the smell of sweat and arousal rising off her body, even the short hurried breaths she made. But again, she had all but stated that she found this setting romantic on previous dates. I saw such an intense and memorable expression give way to another, furrowed brows of frustration. She wanted me to make a move, and for reasons that will become obvious, I didn't want to make such a move. I didn't want to be the reason this started or ended. I wanted to act as though I had no input. Still with the frustration present, she hopped up and kissed me on the cheek, hoping that that would ignite my desire to give her a real kiss. For a while, I stayed strong and just smiled. But after a few more pecks on the cheek, she built up the courage herself and began kissing me deeply and unrestrained. I responded by pushing her up against a nearby tree. I could no longer ignore what I had felt for her. It was only natural. For me. For her. We had kissed before. passionately even, but never, not once, with such a staggering and unambiguous arousal. My curiosity piqued and my hands aggressively found their way to the tight but malleable muscles found between one's thighs and pubis bone. I was in shock to see how such an unassuming touch would pull such a moan out of her. Whether it was the area I pressed or the manner in which I pressed it, I couldn't discern, but she was enthralled with the feeling. She pushed my hand away after a few more squeezes at this desirable area of her anatomy, laughing at the ease in which I gave her such a stunning pleasure. After breathing a moment, her hand found its way to my crotch, a very uneducated hand, it would seem, as she squeezed tightly at one of my testicles, which knocked the wind out of me some. It didn't take long for her to correct the problem and locate the shaft instead. For a moment, in her hand's embrace, it was as if my concerns and morals were gone, melted away by the nourishment of a virtuous lover. I had become absent-minded. Then the paranoia of public affection set in, the fear of an errant wanderer stumbling upon us in this moment of biological imperative gone wild. At least for me, that's where my mind went. But the nervous head turns I was doing differed from hers. She commented on the waning visibility. It did seem as if our cones of vision were pulling in, slowly but noticeably. So we looked around as her hand took a break, but my hand degloved and wormed its way along the waistband of her pants, asking to enter to escape the white-knuckled cold. This was where it had always ended before, with previous partners, but I progressed this time. I say I because I was in control. I can't put responsibility on her shoulders. She pushed back against the tree more with each rhythmic motion of my struggling wrist, popping her up on her tippy toes, as though she was a dancing marionette haphazardly animated by an unskilled puppeteer. She bit down on one of her gloves and pulled her hand out, in between compensating her height for my overzealous hands. She jostled with the waist of my blue jeans, unable to steady her shivering hand to undo the copper rivet fastener. I didn't want to wait anymore, so I undid my pants myself, and our intensity exploded in a flurry of hurried, repetitive motions. But the pause we eventually came to, as she was about to drop her pants, gave my mind pause as well, and for a moment, my conscience returned. It was time for me to explain the mechanics then, as it is that time now as well. In the absence of people, where there is extreme cold, things like myself form. Snow spirits. People will wander into the abyss and die of exposure, and the energy, those thoughts, they linger around, shifting, combining, and eventually roaming until they form a composite being which takes shape over a long period of time, a time which humans can't readily comprehend. Some of us remain similar to humans in thoughts and actions. Sometimes we wander into existence deranged and confused, a new identity not resembling any former humans. But what remains true for all of us, despite the variety of formations we have, is our desire for human warmth. That warmth comes from thievery, taking a life. But this form of sustenance is temporary. It drives many to evil deeds, and if we don't take this warmth, we will fade back out of existence until another formation of energy is successful. There does exist another way for us to maintain life: the transfer of heat, sex. If a snow spirit truly loses its virginity, its lover shall fade back into snow, and its mortality will be received. And this is how I killed the only person I've ever loved. When I explained these things to her, she just accepted it. When I exited the woods, I had the security of life, the warmth, but that comforting feeling fled so fast. I knew a new coldness. Because of what I did, I've tried to carry on with my new life, holding as much dignity as I can, for the sake of the girl I gave my virginity to, for the last person I'd ever kill. They come back, of course, as snowfall. It's a vicious cycle of death by cold, inciting more bitter spirits to take life. When I see snowfall, I know that she's out there, waiting to take me back to the expansive tundra where I was formed. When I see the snowfall, I know others want to take me back there as well, not understanding the sacrifice she made, not understanding how precious this warmth is. I'll hold on to this warmth for as long as I can, because only I can appreciate it. I wish more than anything that I could give back this warmth, but I have to keep it for her sake. When I see the snowfall, I know I need to be happy for her.